Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Szilárd and this is Discovering Two Wheels. In today's episode of Road to Iceland, we're gonna have a look at my 200 kilometers target, which I managed to accomplish this week. I'm gonna tell more about that in a second, so stay tuned. So as I mentioned it earlier, I'm gonna give you a little insight on how I completed the 200 kilometers target for this week. So the first session when we cycled to Rochester and back was quite action-packed because we had a few cases of cars cutting off and coming way too close to the bicycle, taking over without looking into the mirror and stuff like that. But you're gonna see that in the time-lapse video. And compared to that, the second session was a lot chilled, no issues or whatsoever. And also that 85 kilometer what we did on the second day was a lot flatter. We barely had any elevation, so it was kind of like a recovery ride which we needed after the nearly 130 kilometers on Tuesday. Other than cycling, I will be talking about training as well, and in this episode I will discuss what is periodization, and I'm gonna give you an example exercise and a 4-week example training plan just to explain how a periodization looks, which is a lot simpler than it sounds actually. Alright, let's move on and have a look at the first training session. Today is going to be an interesting one because I went running on Sunday after like 2.5 months, and I have the worst soreness in my leg. For the 5 last year, that's for sure. The kind of soreness, you know, what makes you think that can humans take a shit standing like horses? Because if I sit down to the toilet, there is no way I'm coming up. Like somebody gonna have to call the fire brigade to rescue me. Anyways, we are going to do 130k today, Rochester and back to London. Weather should be really good today. First time in like months I don't have to wear the balaclava, which I'm quite happy about it because I got a little bit fed up looking at like a sea lion every single time I go out cycling. The other day in the park somebody threw a raw fish and a beach ball at me. No, nobody took it that far, but I'm pretty sure that some people had the idea. Alright, I'm gonna check out now because I need to meet Tom in a couple of minutes. Be back later.
Let's go. Let's go.
And this is Rochester, and it's just freaking pretty here. You got the bridge there, and that's Tom, just in case if you don't know. And that is the castle. Look at that. This place is pretty cool. We figured that out last time when we came here. It was pretty cool. Yeah, last time we didn't come to the castle. I think we just went to a park and had a look around. I was already like, yeah man, this place is nice. But then, yeah, up here is just, it's a different thing. So, just gonna have a quick break, grab a sandwich, grab a coffee, and then smash it back to London. I mean, the weather is incredible. It's like 13 degrees, it's sunny as hell, like properly sweating. And yeah, the ride was pretty smooth up until coming into Rochester. A lady found it entertaining to have a beef with me. Almost pushed me down on the road. Like, I have that on camera, so it's gonna be in the time-lapse video, but yeah, I'm actually thinking to report her to the police because that was quite dangerous. It's so cool here. So cool. Come on, you bastard. Ah! Success! Just waiting for Tom to catch up. That was a really good stretch of road from Rochester. I don't know where we are at the moment, but I was just like country roads, and it was nice and wavy, but then the side wind was blowing so strong. It felt like you're cycling there, like you're riding on waves on the ocean. It was pretty cool actually, but the wind was so strong I could hear it coming in on one of my ears and going out on the other. Like, my head sounded like a jet turbine. It's like constantly this. But hey, it's just a little bit of an added challenge, but actually it was really cool. Sometimes it really felt like you just like going on waves. Good speed and everything. That was awesome. But I think Tom is coming in a couple of minutes, so I'm just gonna rest a little bit and then smash it. Carry on. With this hat and the hair I look like a barbar. Anyways, I just wanted to stop here for a second. It's Church. Sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, but this is what Google told me. Pretty cool. Look at the bridge, it's nice. So today we didn't do much, just 85 kilometers, because that was gonna bring roughly to the 200 for this week. And this route was flatter than a kitchen worktop, so not too much hustle, not too much wind. It's quite light and easy, because after the 130 on nearly 130 on Tuesday, felt a little bit but it was okay. Yeah, I'm missing the sun though. Also, another driver observation is that dudes who have the seats lowered to the level of the asphalt, what can they see? Like nothing. Lift up the freaking chair and then put your eyes above the steering wheel so you can see what's happening on the road. Or if you don't know where is the trigger, just put a couple in lexicon on S, and if you're already there, read one or two as well, because you probably need it. That's my observation. A little bit of a rant, but yeah, it's just triggering me a little bit. Anyways, that's the break over, heading back home, and I'm just chilling after that, moving on to do some training videos later.
What?
Today I'm going to be talking about programming for an upper body strength session. Last week I talked about a lower body session, and what I did was I explained part of the assessments, goal setting, so on and so on, and I also brought up 2 example plans for a lower body session, one for a beginner level athlete or individual, and another one for an advanced level individual. In the example training plans, I went through a number of exercises and I explained the intensity and the volume I was using for certain individuals. In today's episode, I'm going to be presenting another 2 example training plans, but we're going to focus on a single exercise, and we're going to look into a 4 weeks period where we're going to manipulate the intensity and the volume. Now, before we dive in head first into the periodization examples, I like to point out that we're going to have to go through the same process with the programming as we did with the lower body session. And that means that we're going to have to conduct an assessment, we're going to have to set our goals, select our exercises, and then move on to the periodization. Periodization means the systematic planning of physical activity or training. With other words, that means that over a certain period of time, using the principle of progressive overload, we manipulate volume and intensity, and therefore we're promoting improvement in performance. I talked about the assessment in last week's video when I was discussing the lower body programming. So I just wanted to mention a couple of exercises which are kind of standard exercises to measure 1 rep maximum of upper body strength, and those are bench press, military press, and lat pull down. And an alternative for lat pull down would be pull-ups. If you can do more than 1 pull-up, then we can just add some weight to your pull-ups, and then that way test your strength. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to give you 2 examples for periodization over a 4-week period, and I'm going to choose only 1 single exercise, so make it simple and easy, and that's going to be the bench press. So first of all, we're going to have a look at a beginner athlete or individual. In the case of a strength and conditioning upper body session, we're going to have to go through the same routine like we do it with any other strength and conditioning session, meaning that you're going to have to do your warm-up, the mobility drills. You're going to have to complete the first main component of the workout, which is going to be your power exercise. And as an example, if you do an upper body, a push press would be an excellent power movement as the first part of the main component. And then we're going to move on to the strength exercises. And as I earlier mentioned, the bench press is going to be our chosen exercise for today. You can see on the demonstration that I've chosen to use 6 sets for the bench press, and the reason being is that even though that you completed your power movement, I still like to use 2 sets as a warm-up set just to wake up the nervous system. We can use these 2 first sets to have a look at the technique. If there are any flaws, we can correct them, so when we move on to the heavy sets, then everything should be moving fine. In the case of a beginner athlete or individual, in a 4 weeks period, we're going to start high on the volume and low on the intensity, and as we're working towards the end of the 4th week, we're going to start shifting the intensity higher and then bring the volume down. This way we're going to make sure that the muscles can adapt and the nervous system can adapt as well, and then we're complying with the principle of progressive overload. If you look at week 1, you can see that the volume is quite high. Every set you're going to perform 12 repetitions, and then we're just going to play with the intensity. The first 2 sets are going to be the light ones, the warm-up sets, so you're going to do 20 and 30%. And then from set 3 to 6, we're going to keep the volume at 12 repetitions, but we're going to increase the intensity to 60%. And these are going to be your main working sets. On week 2, we're going to come down to 10 repetitions on each set. And then on the warm-up sets, we're going to start at 30 and 40% of your 1 rep max. And in the following 4 sets, we're going to bring up the intensity to 70 to 75%. In week 3, we're going to bring the volume even further down. We're going to complete only 8 repetitions on every single set, but the intensity will grow just like did it on the previous week. We're going to start at 40 and 50% on the first 2 sets, and then in the 4 working sets, we're going to bring up the resistance to 80-85%. Now, before we go further ahead, I just want to highlight that these numbers are again just guidelines. So these are not set in stone numbers. Everybody's slightly different. So you're going to have to be adjusting the numbers according to yourself or to the individual, whoever you're training. In week 4, you can see that we brought the volume even further down. We only complete 6 repetitions for every single set. The 2 warm-up sets will happen at 45 and 55% of your 1 rep maximum, and your heavier 4 working sets are going to be between 85 to 90%. At this point, it makes sense to explain a little bit why we start so high with the volume and so low on the intensity in a case of a beginner individual. The reason being is that it's not only training the muscles but the nervous system as well. When we start at high volume and light weight, we have the opportunity to correct mistakes. We can pay more attention because the nervous system is not getting overloaded. So your body positioning, your proprioception, everything will just work a little bit better because it has more time to process and is not overwhelmed. As we start increasing the intensity, meaning that we start lifting heavier weights, we are challenging the nervous systems and the muscles of the body as well on a higher level. That means that you will need more recovery, and it also means that you can get away with less technical mistakes. So if you have any flow in your execution, under heavy weight is going to be more punishing, meaning that you're more likely to sustain an injury because you had some imperfection in your skills. Going through a 4 weeks period and manipulating the volume and the intensity this way, in the case of a beginner athlete, will help you to get prepped to those heavy lifts and then try to avoid injuries as much as possible, and then make sure that your body adapts in the best way possible. Now, if you look at the periodization example for a more advanced person, you can immediately see that we start with a relatively low volume, 8 repetitions on the first week, and a relatively high intensity. This is because that person has some history with lifting, has some experience, most likely have a certain level of strength. For all of those reasons, we can start with a lower volume and higher intensity, and then over the 4 weeks you're going to shift it just like we did it in the previous example. In week 1, you can see that I have used again the 6-set approach, using the first 2 sets as warm-up sets, and in week 1 we're going to start at 8 repetitions on the warm-up sets, 40 and 50% of 1 rep maximum on the bench press, and then for the 4 heavy sets we're going to move down to 6 to 8 repetitions at 80 to 85% intensity. I said 6 to 8 repetitions because 6 would be the minimum we want to do, but if the person can push it to 8, that would be ideal. In week 2 we will be performing 6 repetitions on the first 2 sets at 45 and 55% of the 1 rep maximum, and then in the 4 heavy working sets we're going to perform 4 to 6 repetitions at 85 to 90% of 1 rep max. In week 3 we're going to perform 4 repetitions in the warm-up sets at 55 and 65% of 1 rep max, and in the 4 working sets we're going to move to 3-4 repetitions in each set at 90 to 95% of 1 rep max. And week 4 is where things get really heavy. Your warm-up set is going to be only 3 repetitions for both, but you're going to warm up at 65% and 75% of your 1 rep maximum, and then in the working sets we're going to move on to work more than 95% of your 1 rep maximum, but you will be only completing 1 to 3 repetitions. When you're working over 95% of your 1 rep maximum, that demands insane amount of focus, and also is very draining on the muscles, very draining on the nervous system. So once you completed your set, you can take up to like 5 minutes rest, and don't try to cut your rest periods short, because you're gonna have to make sure that the second set, the third set, the fourth set, they all coming out with solid reps. So for that reason, there is no point rushing from one set to the other set. It's strength training. Take your time with the recovery, make sure that you're ready to smash the next set. And with that, we arrived to the end of this week's episode. If you want to have a look at the previous week's episode when I was talking about the lower body training, just click up there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks very much for tuning in. And if you're digging our content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to know more about physical training and strength and conditioning, please let me know. I have included the link of my website in the description below. Click on it and just hit me up. I'll get back to you as fast as I can. You will also find in the description all of our social media platforms. You can follow us on Komoot, Strava, Facebook, and Instagram as well. In the meantime, stay safe, and I see you next time. Take it easy. Ciao.